The rain hammered against the windows of our Seattle home, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. For 20 years, Alaric, a software engineer, had built a life with Bronte. We met in college, young and full of dreams. I remember her infectious laugh echoing through the library, her eyes sparkling with intelligence and ambition. We were inseparable. We married shortly after graduation, bought a small house, and started our careers. Life wasn't always easy, but we faced every challenge together, or so I thought. Now at 46, I felt like I was living a lie. Bronte, once my confidant and lover, had become distant and secretive. It started subtly: late nights at the office, unexplained expenses on our credit card, and a growing lack of intimacy. I chalked it up to stress. She was a successful lawyer, after all, and her job was demanding. But the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't go away. The feeling she was cheating on me. One evening, Bronte told me she had to attend a conference in Portland for a few days. I kissed her goodbye, a hollow gesture, and watched her drive away. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I felt an overwhelming urge to check her laptop. I know it was a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Her laptop was password protected, but I knew her birthday and our anniversary. After a few tries, I was in. I started with her emails. Most were work-related, but then I found a folder labeled personal. My heart pounded in my chest as I clicked on it. There were dozens of emails to someone named Kellan. My hands trembled as I opened the first one. It was a love letter, filled with intimate details and promises of a future together. Kellan was her colleague at the law firm. I scrolled through the emails, each one a dagger twisting in my heart. They had been having an affair for months. They had even planned a weekend getaway to a cabin in the mountains while she was supposedly at the conference in Portland. The emails were explicit, detailing their passionate encounters and their dreams of a life together. I felt like I was going to be sick. The woman I loved, the woman I had dedicated my life to, was betraying me in the most profound way imaginable. I spent the rest of the night in a daze, replaying the last few months in my head, searching for clues I had missed. I remembered the late nights, the business trips, the unexplained absences. It all made sense now. I felt like an idiot, a fool who had been blinded by love and trust. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I couldn't face anyone. I spent the day pacing around the house, consumed by anger, sadness, and disbelief. I wanted to confront Bronte, to scream at her, to demand an explanation. But I also feared the truth. I feared losing her, even though I knew I had already lost her to Kellan. When Bronte returned from her conference 2 days later, she seemed tired but happy. She greeted me with a kiss and asked about my week. I forced a smile and told her everything was fine. I couldn't bring myself to confront her yet. I needed time to process everything, to figure out what to do. That night, as we lay in bed, I couldn't bring myself to touch her. I stared at the ceiling, listening to her even breathing, wondering how she could be so calm and peaceful after what she had done. I felt a wave of resentment wash over me. How could she lie to me so easily? How could she betray our marriage, our life together? The next few weeks were a living hell. I went through the motions of daily life, but I was just a shell of my former self. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't concentrate at work. I was constantly on edge, waiting for the moment when I would finally confront Bronte. I started gathering evidence of her affair. I hired a private investigator to track her movements and gather photos and videos of her with Kellan. I wanted to have concrete proof of her betrayal before I confronted her. I also started consulting with a divorce lawyer. I knew that our marriage was over, but I wanted to protect myself financially. Bronte was a successful lawyer, and I knew she would fight me every step of the way. One evening, I came home from work to find Bronte waiting for me in the living room. She looked nervous. "Alaric, we need to talk," she said. My heart sank. I knew this was it. I took a deep breath and braced myself for the confrontation. "I know about Kellan," I said, my voice trembling. Bronte's face paled. She didn't say anything for a moment, then she burst into tears. "Alaric, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far. How could you do this to me?" I asked, my voice rising. "How could you betray our marriage, our life together?" "I don't know," she said, her voice choked with tears. "I was unhappy. I felt like we were growing apart. Kellan made me feel alive again. "So you decided to have an affair," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's your solution to our problems?" "No, it wasn't supposed to happen," she said. "It just did." "Well, it did happen," I said. "And now our marriage is over." Bronte begged me to forgive her, to give her another chance. She promised to end the affair and to work on our marriage, but I couldn't forgive her. The trust was broken, and I knew that I could never look at her the same way again. "I want a divorce," I said, my voice firm. Bronte's face crumpled. She started to cry uncontrollably. "Please, Alaric, don't do this," she pleaded. "I love you. I don't want to lose you. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with Kellan," I said. I turned and walked out of the house, leaving Bronte sobbing in the living room. I didn't look back. The divorce was long and bitter. Bronte fought me every step of the way, trying to get as much money as possible. She even tried to blame me for the affair, claiming that I was emotionally unavailable and that I had driven her into Kellan's arms. But I had the evidence to prove her wrong. The private investigator had provided me with photos and videos of her and Kellan, and I presented them to the court. In the end, I won. The judge ruled in my favor, and Bronte was forced to pay me a substantial settlement. She also lost her job at the law firm. Her affair with Kellan had become public knowledge, and her reputation was ruined. As for me, I was finally free. I sold our house in Seattle and moved to a small town in Montana. I bought a cabin in the mountains and started a new life. I spent my days hiking, fishing, and writing code. I was alone, but I was also at peace. One day I received a letter from Kellan. He wrote that Bronte had left him. She had drained his bank account and disappeared. He was devastated and alone. He asked for my forgiveness. I didn't reply. I had no sympathy for him. He had gotten what he deserved. Years passed. I never remarried. I focused on my career and my hobbies. I built a good life for myself, a life free from betrayal and heartbreak. I learned to trust again, but I was always cautious. I knew that people were capable of great love, but they were also capable of great cruelty. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset over the mountains, I thought about Bronte. I wondered where she was and what she was doing. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. She had thrown away everything for a fleeting moment of passion, and she had paid the price. I raised my glass to the sky and said, "Goodbye, Bronte. I hope you find happiness someday." Then I took a sip of my wine and watched the sun disappear behind the mountains. My life with Bronte was over, but my life was just beginning.